Every bushel has a few bad apples, or so I'm told. I wouldn't know. I buy my fruit by the foot. The NFL has bad apples too, and sometimes they need to drop the hammer on these junkies, flunkies, and sexual predators. Hello everybody, welcome to Shut Up Football. I'm Jeff Stoltzfus, that's Kevin, and this episode, we can't shut up about NFL justice, which sounds like a cool show from the 90s starring Lorenzo Lamas, but it's not. And also, who is Lorenzo Lamas? Players keep acting a fool and the NFL is forced to dole out punishments like an angry stepdaddy with no safe word. But what even is the punishment for throwing a bag of gummy dicks at police or flying 100 hookers across state lines to have sex with Vikings on a boat in the purifying waters of Lake Minnetonka? And who is responsible to decide such punishments? Is it me? Is it you? Is it me? We'll look at all of this. We're talking crime and punishment here. Do you like football? Do you like shitty jokes? Maybe subscribe to this YouTube channel. That's pretty much all we do here. We're going to examine the NFL's rules and look back at their history of punishments. It's time for some law and order. In the NFL, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups, or maybe one or four. Nobody really knows what the fuck is going on. These are their stories. In the NFL, behavior is governed by the Code of Conduct, established by the league and the NFL Players Association. Transgressions are typically levied in the form of fines, and the fines don't go to the league itself. They go to the NFL Foundation, which assists former players through programs that are mutually agreed upon by the NFL and the NFLPA through their collective bargaining agreement. There's no ambiguity. If you want to see a list of violations and a dollar amount for each one, just visit their website. So when Myles Garrett tries to murder somebody with their own helmet, Jay Cutler flips off some fans, or OBJ gets down on all fours and pretends to piss like a doggy in the end zone, there is a stated discipline for that. The Code of Conduct has a list of off-the-field infractions too. Some players treat it more like a bucket list. But make no mistake, if a player gets drunk and punches a police horse in the mouth, they can be disciplined. They don't need to be convicted of or even charged with a crime to be disciplined. The commissioner has the authority. But the rulings don't come straight from Roger's mouth. He doesn't just pluck the punishments from the black abyss. The commissioner has a conduct committee. They review each incident and inform the commissioner of rulings. And who makes up that committee? The team owners, about a third of them. Sometimes when a player acts a fool, they're placed on the commissioner's exempt list. But what the fuck is it? It's paid leave. They can't practice. They can't attend games. But with the team's permission, they sure as shit can attend meetings, workouts, and access treatments too. It's NFL limbo while the league looks into your suspected shittiness, or pretends to look into your suspected shittiness. Once a decision is reached, you come off the commissioner's exempt list and take your medicine. Or not so much. Discipline could be a fine, a suspension, both, or banishment from the league, with the opportunity to reapply. When it comes to the many flavors of assault, it reads pretty clear. In fact, it's the only clearly defined section with a game number attached. The baseline suspension is 6 games without pay. It even gets kinda specific, detailing factors such as choking, with or without a weapon, elderly people, pregnant people, underage witnesses. Holy shit, they've thought of everything. Almost like it came up before. However, even a baseline suspension, as dictated in their own code of conduct, has often been later reduced to fewer games, which makes the baseline inclusion kinda worthless. And that's where the problems begin. When a player does something bad, it makes headlines. Not good for the NFL. But when they try to discipline that player, it often makes headlines again. Often because the punishments are viewed as inept. It's further compounded when comparing punishments, such as the 2-game suspension for Ray Rice, who was caught on video assaulting a woman, versus the going rate of 4 games for violating the league's performance-enhancing drugs policy. One of these things is not like the other. We can't let the public confidence in the NFL waver. Don't worry, we're here to help. We just need to attach the proper suspensions to the acts already listed in their code of conduct. And luckily, we don't have to guess. There's a litany of offenses and punishments to provide stellar examples. We just need to put them in order. So let's take a look at some of the NFL's punishments. 2022, Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley was suspended for at least 1 season for sports betting. Oopsie! Can't fucking do that. The NFL does not like gambling. Calvin wasn't even playing when it happened. He was away from the team for mental health reasons, which I'm sure were exacerbated after losing an $11 million salary for a $1,500 parlay. 2016, the Chiefs were punished for tampering. They called wide receiver Jeremy Maclin prior to the legal tampering period. Can't have that. The team was fined, as was head coach Andy Reid and GM John Dorsey. They also lost a 3rd and 6th round draft pick. 2015, Tom Brady was suspended for maybe deflating footballs. The Patriots were fined $1 million and surrendered 2 draft picks. We can lump the organizational penalties with the Chiefs, but Brady lost games for shadiness, I guess? You could call that competitive advantage. Though, if you watch that game, I think Tom Brady was the competitive advantage, not his deflated balls. Whatever the case, he got 4 games for that, and we all learned a very valuable lesson. Keep your eye on the PSI. No one wants their balls under pressure. 2013, Saints coach Sean Payton was suspended after attempting to cover up his team's bounty program, also known as Bountygate, which I'm told had little to do with paper towels and a lot to do with injuring opponents for bonuses. They tried to hit Brett Favre so hard he'd shit his teeth straight into his Wrangler jeans. So I guess the paper towels would come in handy. You can't put a price on happiness, even if that price was pulled together by players and coaches. Very unsportsmanlike. Sean Payton's punishment was unusually harsh, suspended for an entire year and forced to watch himself played by Kevin James in a movie. 2007, Michael Vick was suspended for running an interstate dogfighting ring. That's gambling and animal cruelty. He did prison time and was back on a team 2 years later. Marijuana! Josh Gordon lost a season for it in 2014. Not his first offense. Ricky Williams lost his 2006 season for the same. Again, not his first offense. Ricky was suspended 4 games previously. So it looks like between 4 games and a season, depending on the incidents. Or at least that's the way it used to be. In 2021, a new collective bargaining agreement changed a lot. The old CBA was a real square. The new one changed when players get tested, the threshold for a positive, and players will only be fined, not suspended for violations, unless they refuse treatment, or it's their 4th violation. Then they get slapped with a 3-game suspension. What the heck is marijuana treatment?
Is it K?
So weed takes a tumble down the board, which just makes sense. It's not performance enhancing, unless that performance is identifying clouds that look like other stuff, or pioneering new discoveries in the search of things that go with cheese. Performance-enhancing drugs like steroids, stimulants, and HGH have their own penalties. They don't want to find any shenanigans in your urine. Like in 2012, when DJ Williams, Ryan McBean, and Virgil Green were suspended for having non-human urine in their system. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds gross as hell. You should not have other pee-pee in your pee-pee. And the implications of how it got there terrify me in ways I do not even care to discuss. The going rate for a first-time offense is 4 games suspended, unless it's 6 games, which usually comes from mucking about with subterfuge. You ain't gotta lie. A second violation can go to 10 games or more. PEDs are a competitive advantage, landing it with the Flatermouse. Unfortunately, things are about to get much, much bleaker as we focus on the violence outside the game. Remember, assault gets a baseline of 6 games as dictated by the NFL's personal conduct policy. 2010, Ben Roethlisberger was suspended 6 games after sexual assault allegations, which later reduced to 4. Adrian Peterson was suspended most of his 2014 season when it was revealed he beat his son with a switch. 2014, Ray Rice was suspended 2 games after he knocked his fiancée out in a hotel elevator. The suspension was changed to indefinite only after video of the incident circulated through the media. 2015, Greg Hardy was suspended after he strangled his girlfriend, threw her into some furniture, and threatened to kill her. He was suspended for 10 games, and then it was reduced to 4. 2018, Kareem Hunt was suspended 8 games for kicking a woman in a hotel. That was also caught on camera. The same year, Jimmy Smith was suspended 4 games for a pattern of threatening behaviors towards an ex-girlfriend. These are only a few instances of domestic violence and the subsequent suspensions. There are more, but the baseline 6 games seems pretty flexible, anywhere from 2 games to indefinite, depending on whether or not there's video and if it's on the internet. Unfortunately, the NFL has suspended multiple players for involuntary manslaughter, which is the legal term for accidental murder, or without intent. Dante Stallworth was suspended for a year, as was Mike Riley. Josh Brent received a 10-game suspension for his, so manslaughter is on the board. That's about as bad as it can get. However, some of you may have noticed we've omitted a very big name, Ray Lewis. In 2000, he was involved in a fight that left 2 people stabbed to death. Lewis and 2 friends were arrested and indicted for aggravated assault and murder. Lewis eventually took a plea deal, meaning all murder charges against him were dropped. And while it's open for debate about what level he participated in or attempted to cover up those murders, what's not is he admitted to lying to investigators, and he was there. Ray Lewis was never suspended by the NFL. He didn't miss a single game. He was fined $250,000, and if we're looking at the board, arrested and indicted for murder and lying about it to police sits amongst a mistimed phone call and some unethical videography. This is the league's history of punishments. It's not great. Just off the top, violence against women ranks about the same as deflating footballs, and gambling is on par with manslaughter. To be fair, there has been some improvement over the years, but it hasn't come from the league. Up until the 2021 CBA, penalties for marijuana were harsher than child abuse, which is just fucking crazy. You'd think the NFL would take the lead to make important changes like this, but they don't seem particularly motivated to do so. And if it takes the NFLPA to bargain for some much-needed improvement, so be it, because it has to come from fucking somewhere. Thanks for watching Shot Up Football. We'll catch you next time. Peace!
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.
And lucky for us, we don't have to guess. There's a litany of offenses. There's many fences. There's a lot of fences around houses.